They always say your life flashes before your eyes. Mine didn't. It crawled, frame by frame, like bad footage from a cheap camera. I didn't see light or angels. I saw a cracked phone screen and my own face in it. That's how I knew I wasn't dead yet. Just ruined. Earlier that night, the apartment smelled like cold coffee and dishonesty. Lucas was laughing in the other room. Some sports highlight, the kind of noise that fills a relationship when conversation's gone extinct. I should have left months ago. But people don't leave when they stop being loved. They leave when staying starts to humiliate them. I opened his phone because I was already past forgiveness. One swipe, and there it was. Text from Sophie. Her name looked wrong on his screen, like graffiti on a church wall. Last night was perfect. 3 words, and I felt the whole architecture of my dignity tilt. No scream, no slap, just that slow, stupid heartbeat of someone realizing they've been the only honest person in the room. I remember walking out. No shoes, just the keys biting my palm. The city outside smelled like wet metal. Every traffic light blinked like a dare. I told myself I was going for a drive to calm down. That's the first lie we tell ourselves before self-destruction. I just need air. The second lie is, I'll be fine. Rain started halfway down the highway. Not cinematic rain, real rain. The kind that blinds you and makes your wipers panic. Headlights smeared across the windshield until everything looked like memory. Familiar, but distorted. Lucas kept calling. I watched his name flash, then vanish, again and again. I didn't pick up. Not because I was angry, because I wanted him to feel the silence he gave me. There's a split second before a crash, when the brain gets generous with detail. The red lights ahead, the puddle I didn't see, the scream I never heard. Then, impact. When I woke up, the world was white and humming. Hospital ceilings always look like bad decisions. A nurse told me I was lucky. I remember thinking, lucky people don't wake up wishing they hadn't. Mom showed up the next day. We hadn't spoken in 8 months, mostly because she tells the truth like it's a competition. She looked smaller than I remembered. Her voice trembled on my name, Ellie, the one I used to hate because it sounded too soft. She didn't hug me, just sat there, hands folded like a prayer she didn't believe in. I wanted to ask why she came. I wanted to tell her I was angry. Instead, I pretended to sleep, because that's what I do. Perform strength to avoid being seen weak. The next time I opened my eyes, she was still there, dozing in the chair, her face slack with exhaustion. That's when it hit me. Love doesn't always arrive as forgiveness. Sometimes it just stays. Quiet, uncomfortable, uninvited. Lucas came later. The smell of his cologne walked in before he did. He looked like he'd aged overnight. Maybe guilt grows wrinkles faster than time. He said my name once. I didn't answer. He said he was sorry. I still didn't. Because when someone breaks you and then apologizes, it feels less like remorse and more like a souvenir. I watched his reflection in the heart monitor screen, green lines twitching between us. Part of me wanted him to reach for my hand. Another part wanted the machine to flatline just to see if he'd finally panic. Neither happened. They call what I had survivor's guilt. But guilt assumes survival feels like winning. It doesn't. It feels like being stuck in a waiting room after the show's over, lights still buzzing, everyone else gone home. That night, Mom fell asleep again in the chair. Rain tapped the window like it was trying to confess something. I whispered. To no one, maybe to the dark. I shouldn't have driven. But the truth is, I didn't crash because of speed or rain or fate. I crashed because I wanted to. Not to die, just to stop feeling like I was already dead. People will call that a cry for help, but it wasn't. It was a cry for quiet. The kind of quiet where you don't have to explain why you stayed, why you forgave too many times, why you kept believing love would fix what discipline should have. In the hospital, every beep is a countdown you can't see. Every visitor looks at you like a lesson they just learned too late. I watched Lucas cry once. Small, embarrassed tears like he didn't have permission. Mom pretended not to notice. I pretended not to care. But deep down, it hurts. How grief always makes hypocrites of us. I used to think heartbreak was dramatic, like in movies. Screaming, running in the rain, collapsing on the floor. Turns out, it's quieter. It's IV drips and stale air and the sound of your mother praying for a daughter. She doesn't really know anymore. The doctor told me I was stable. That's the word they use when someone's not dying fast enough to justify the machines. But inside, I wasn't stable. I was bargaining with something I couldn't name. If I live, I'll change. If I live, I'll tell the truth next time. If I live, I'll stop mistaking pain for purpose. When the lights dimmed and the nurses left, I lay there, counting the spaces between beeps. Every gap felt longer, heavier, almost peaceful. And that's when I realized, maybe dying isn't about losing breath. Maybe it's about finally telling the truth. That was the night everything cracked. Not from the crash, not from betrayal, but from the silence that followed. Because silence is where you finally hear yourself. And sometimes, that's the loudest sound in the world. Morning came without sunlight. Hospitals don't allow real light. They feed you fluorescence instead, the diet version of hope. I kept staring at the IV drip, counting drops like seconds I'd stolen back. People think recovery means healing. It doesn't. It means inventory. Every bruise, every lie, every version of yourself you let someone else author. Lucas visited again. His shadow hit the curtain before he did. He brought coffee. Said I looked better. The truth, I looked like proof that guilt makes people generous. He talked. I listened to the beeping machines instead. Machines are honest. They only say what's real. I wondered if he came for closure or confession. Maybe both. Maybe he just didn't want to be the villain in anyone's story. Not even mine. After he left, Mom wheeled me outside. It wasn't some movie moment of bonding. She was just tired of me staring at walls. The garden looked like someone had forgotten to color it in. Wet benches, fake cheer from the volunteers. She told me I needed sunlight. I told her sunlight needed me less than ever. She didn't laugh. We used to fight over small things. Grades, curfews, ambition. Now we just existed in the same silence, orbiting regret. I kept thinking, love shouldn't feel like penance. Yet somehow, that's all it ever became for us. Back in the room, I scrolled through my phone. Messages piled up like junk mail. Coworkers, acquaintances, even Sophie. Sophie. Her name glowed on the screen like a bruise you can't stop pressing. I'm sorry. Can I visit? No. But I typed sure and never hit send. Forgiveness is an expensive habit. I couldn't afford it yet. She showed up anyway. Her eyes did that thing, the fake shimmer of remorse. She brought flowers. Hospitals breathed them like apologies. I didn't speak. She didn't either. When she left, the flowers stayed, and the room smelled like rot by morning. That night, the monitor spiked. My heart decided to improvise. Doctors rushed in, hands, voices, the blur of emergency. They said breathe, but breathing felt optional. While everything screamed around me, something inside went perfectly still. I wasn't afraid. I was curious. Curious how close you can get to the edge before falling stops feeling like failure. They stabilized me, which sounds heroic until you live through it. Being stabilized is just being kept between existing and disappearing. A polite limbo. Mom sat by the bed, fingers around my wrist like she could anchor me. I wanted to tell her not to. Sometimes saving someone only teaches them to rely on pain for proof they matter. Dreams came next, or maybe memories pretending to be dreams. I was underwater. Everything is blue and slow. Voices bled through. Lucas, Mom, Sophie. Each sang my name like it belonged to them. I tried answering, but the sound doesn't travel well in regret. When I surfaced, my lungs burned, and I woke up gasping in the same white room. Mom was asleep again, face half buried in her jacket. Her hand rested near mine. I let my fingers brush hers. That small contact felt louder than any apology. Maybe love is just repetition, someone showing up until you finally notice. Days blurred. Lucas kept visiting. He'd sit in the chair, fidgeting with some photo from our happier version. The lake trip, the one where we jumped before checking the depth. We laughed then. That was before we learned consequences could swim faster than courage. He told me he missed me. I almost said, "You miss the version that adored you." But saying it would have made it sound like I still wanted him to fix it. And I didn't. I just wanted him to understand the math. Betrayal minus honesty equals 0. Nights were the worst. Hospitals grow quieter after midnight, like everyone agrees to pretend hope sleeps too. I'd watch the red blink of the heart monitor and think about how it mirrored the taillights before the crash. Everything becomes a loop when you can't forgive yourself. I whispered once, to no one, "If I don't wake up, tell them I tried." Then I laughed, because even dying, I was still writing drafts of excuses. Somewhere between sleep and whatever comes after, I realized I didn't actually want to die. I wanted to be believed. There's a difference. Death is permanent silence. Belief is someone saying, "I see you, even at your worst." Mom started reading to me from some old book. She thought it calmed me. It didn't. But her voice filled the room, and that was enough. Maybe love isn't comfort. Maybe it's just presence. Lucas stopped coming for 2 days. I pretended not to care, but absence has a weight. When he finally returned, he looked empty in a new way, like he'd stopped rehearsing guilt and started feeling it. He said nothing, just sat. We watched rain crawl down the window. That silence was almost holy. Not forgiveness, not reconciliation, just truth without decoration. Later, I found myself praying to a God I wasn't sure existed, not for survival, for clarity. If I had to keep living, I wanted to know why. Maybe the reason hadn't come yet. Maybe the reason was the waiting itself. The nurses whispered about moving me to general recovery. Good progress, they said. But progress toward what? Normalcy? Normal had been the prelude to all this. They didn't know that inside, something was unwinding, not dying, not healing, just finally stopping the performance. On my last night before transfer, I asked the dark, the question everyone avoids. What if I get better, but the people I love stay the same? No answer, just the steady mechanical pulse that pretends to be a heartbeat. I decided, maybe that's the truth. You don't wait for closure. You build distance until the hurt becomes history. They said I was almost well, but well just meant I could walk again, not that I could live again. They said I was lucky, but luck feels heavier when you know you've wasted it before. As I drifted into sleep, I told myself one thing. Tomorrow, I'd stop pretending this story was about them. It's always been about me and the choice I still hadn't made. The morning they discharged me, the nurse smiled like it was an ending. It wasn't. It was just another rerun of survival. The same show, different costume. I signed the papers with a trembling hand. My mother cried quietly beside me. She wasn't crying because I lived. She was crying because she didn't know what came next. Neither did I. The air outside felt foreign. People moved too fast, like they were all late for something important. Maybe they were. Maybe I was too late to my own life. I went home to silence. My apartment smelled like dust and ghosts of comfort food. I dropped my hospital bag, looked around, and realized how easy it is to vanish from your own existence. The plants were dead. The mirror was covered in post-it affirmations from a version of me that still believed repetition could rewrite truth. You are enough. You are loved. You are healing. I peeled them off one by one, not in anger, in clarity. Healing isn't an affirmation. It's a negotiation between who you were and who you can still stand to be. Lucas texted, "Can we talk?" I stared at it until the words blurred. For the first time, I didn't feel the need to reply. That silence, my silence, was louder than any closure he could have offered. I deleted the thread, not out of spite, out of self-defense. Sometimes moving on isn't about forgiveness, it's about bandwidth. I couldn't keep hosting ghosts. Days passed like pages with no plot. I walked, cooked, breathed. Each task felt like a test, proof that existence didn't need to be profound to be valid. At night, the crash replayed, always in fragments, headlights, rain, a moment of weightlessness, then metal screaming like it wanted to confess something. I used to flinch. Now I just watched. There's a strange peace in no longer begging memories to behave. Sophie tried calling once. Her name blinked across the screen like a dare. I let it ring. The truth was simple. She'd already said everything worth hearing, and I'd already heard enough of my own silence. We were done. Not in the cinematic sense. No tears, no dramatic walkaways. Just two people finally running out of narrative. Then came the letter. A small, plain envelope from Lucas. No return address. Inside, I never knew how to love you without breaking something first. I'm sorry for all the shards you had to pick up. You don't owe me anything, not even hate. For a moment, I almost smiled. Not because of what he said, but because of what he didn't. No begging, no heroics, no let's try again. Just an honest ruin, finally admitting it was one. I folded the letter, placed it in the drawer with old photos, and shut it. Some truths deserve storage, not display. Weeks blurred into months. I took long walks at dawn, the hour where even the city sounds unsure of itself. The air carried a kind of honesty I hadn't felt in years. One morning, I passed the crash site. The guardrail still bent, paint still scraped. Someone had left flowers there once, but they'd withered long ago. I stood there, not in grief, but recognition. That's where everything ended, but it's also where I started telling the truth. I whispered, "Thank you," not to fate. To consequence, it was brutal, but it was honest. People talk about closure like it's a door you shut behind you. It's not. It's more like a room you stop sleeping in. It's still there. You just don't live there anymore. I started painting again. Nothing pretty, just colors that made sense when words didn't. The canvases looked like bruises healing in slow motion. Mom visited one afternoon, saw them, and cried again. This time, I didn't stop her. Crying was her language. Mine was silence, turned into something visible. One evening, while washing dishes, I caught my reflection in the window. Not the hospital version, not the smiling imposter, just me. No makeup, no filters, no rehearsed survival. And for the first time, I didn't flinch. Maybe that's what healing really is. Not joy, not peace, but the absence of recoil. Sometimes I still think about dying, not with fear, not with desire, just curiosity, like wondering what happens after the credits. But for now, I keep living between the scenes, rewriting the ones I ruined, forgiving the ones I can't fix. People always say you don't know who truly loves you until you're gone. They're wrong. You find out when you come back, when the silence clears, and you see who's still standing there, not out of pity, but because they see the wreckage and stay anyway. And if no one's standing, that's fine too. It just means it's your turn to stand for yourself. I used to think the story ended with my death. Now I know. That was just the trailer. The real story began the moment I stopped needing witnesses. The world outside keeps moving, indifferent, beautiful, cruel, alive. And me? I walk into it. Not healed, not redeemed, just awake.